Hello again, Cancer. Dadhichi here from astrology.com.au. And if you're looking at the introduction video, I talked a little bit about Mercury and how right now it's retrograde and how many people, including astrologers, don't really have a grasp on how this planet in its retrogression is not always bad. In your case right now, the retrogression takes place in the 12th house with the Sun and Mars. So this is a gathering time, a bit of time for you to collect yourself, I guess, for want of a better phrase. You do have that lovely transit of Venus in the Sun sign now. That's going to continue just for a little while longer, up until the 6th, when it moves into your 2nd house to connect with Jupiter. But just before that, we do see the full moon taking place in your 6th house. So this month, the 6th house and 12th house of your horoscope seem to be very, very strongly showcased. 6th house has to do with your work, has to do with your, more or less your routine. The 10th house has to do with your career and what you're going to achieve. The 6th house has more to do with the environment that you work in, the type of people you work for and with, the routine and methodologies you employ in doing your work as best you can. And there, as we've said on previous occasions, just now, you have this retrogression of Saturn as well, moving backwards and forwards in that 6th house. That can sometimes be a little bit difficult. Saturn is a slow-moving planet. So what you're seeing here, along with that retrogression of Mercury in the 12th house, which is a little bit different. It's a form of service, unlike work. This is more compassionate work. It has to do with spiritual activities, activities you conduct in secret. It is also a house of past karma. And you've got Mars and Sun there with this planet as well. So yeah, 12th house is not great. It can actually show a very tiring sort of phase for you, which is probably why when I say collecting yourself, it's not just your thoughts. This could actually be a collection of your physical energies as well. It can be a collection of your money, because this 12th house has to do with finances and the way you spend money. And, in Vedic astrology, it's called the house of charity. Charity means giving away money, whether asked or unasked. So here what you're probably required to do is think a little bit about this Cancerian nature of yours, which is prone to nurturing and caring and healing and looking after people, and just balancing that a little bit with your own needs throughout this period. That full moon on the 3rd in the 6th house then sees a few aspects in between the new moon, which again takes place in that 12th house. And I see that as being very significant as a form of spiritual renaissance. This is the commencement of a new cycle. It can really reveal a lot to you, not just on the conscious side of your mind, but on the sub and unconscious part of your mind, the spiritual level, the astral level. So dreams can be quite powerful. Cheers. And you should heed those dreams, because there could be messages coming through. Do take care to note that down, write them down, and don't jump to conclusions, because that retrograde Mercury does tend to confuse things, especially as we see later in the month. There is a very hard aspect to Neptune, which is in your 9th house, also a spiritual house. That takes place leading up to the 24th. So these aspects prior to the full moon, we see there's Mars in the 12th, favourable aspects to Jupiter in the 2nd. So that shows a balancing of your financial circumstances, 12th house being expenses, 2nd house being income. Jupiter is still there, bringing with it some opportunities, and that's in the trine aspect to Uranus in the 10th house of career. And again, later in the month, around the 22nd, that's going to bring with it some positive news, some opportunities to elevate you in the workplace as well. Mostly we see that focus on the 12th house. A couple of the other aspects that I'd like to talk about are the ones that shift you from this 12th house later in the month. That, for example, is the movement of the sun to the sign of Cancer. So we're seeing a solar return after the 22nd. That's always very, very good. So if I've talked about a lowered vitality in this period, then that transit of the sun to the foreground, what we call the rising sign or the sun sign, will definitely bring with it an elevation in physical energies as well. So that's nice. Mercury being square to Neptune, we've talked about. There are a couple of other aspects there. Mars moving to the first house as well. So that, along with the sun, which precedes it, are two very, very fiery planets. You could have a bit of a mini crisis there as the sun transits over Mars prior to it moving into the sun sign of Cancer. But then you've got that dynamic, almost aggressive Martian energy hitting your sun sign, and that's going to stay there for at least a month or two, and that will be taking place on the 24th. That one you have to be a little bit careful of, not to overdo things. You could be ready and rearing to go after having collected too much energy, and that makes you a little bit aggressive. We'll talk a little more about that next month, because that will move into a very hard opposition aspect to the outermost planet, Pluto, which is in your 7th house, and that we need to be a little bit careful about, because that can show a real conflict of wills, if I could put it, down the track. Venus in the 2nd house, that will have moved there. Let me have a look at that movement. I think I told you June 6th, but then that is moving into the nice conjunction of Jupiter, bringing with it further opportunities for you to earn more money. And in the trine to Uranus on the 29th, towards the last couple of days of the month, some really great opportunities, some that you may not have even expected in terms of your finances. So that's a great note to finish the month on. Do join me at astrology.com.au for a more detailed analysis of this month, your day and your year ahead, with lots of other goodies there for you. Of course, most of it's free. See you here next month. Bye-bye.